the 2011 versions of all the Autodesk software.
That's right. That's right.
Being unveiled locally or presented locally.
They are. Yes.
So what's the push behind it?
Well, it's interesting. It's like 3 years ago. It was fairly straightforward because we had Max and Maya, so we had two products to talk about. But now we have Software Mars, we have Mudbox, we have Motion Builder. So there's a lot of new stuff. But I suppose the key things are, first of all, around the performance of the products. So we've invested a huge amount of time just re-architecting the products to take advantage of things like GPUs, multi-threading, multi-core processing. So, all the new hardware that's out there, we're really trying to take advantage of. The second thing would be around the usability of the products. So there's a lot of customers out there who are using several different packages from us, and historically they've looked fairly different. So now we've got a completely different user interface in Maya, which uses Qt. It's completely customizable. You can now customize all the ribbons and menus in 3ds Max. You can do things like you copy your shortcuts across through the different applications, make things much easier to use. And I suppose the third big thing is the actual interoperability between the products. So we now sell suites of products. So we sell one which is Maya, Motion Builder and Mudbox. We sell one which is 3ds Max, Motion Builder and Mudbox. So that's like really good from a commercial standpoint because it's much cheaper than buying them all individually. But it also forces us to make sure they work together. So I don't know if you're familiar with FBX.
Vaguely.
The sort of data format, if you like, to take data from one package to the other, be it geometry, be it animation, etc. So we've got a common implementation of that now in all of the different packages. So you can move the data around seamlessly.
So does that mean you're now at the stage where you perhaps, if you've got assets that have been created for a film project, they can be ported across quite easily for game authoring? Is that the idea? Or?
Absolutely, yes. So that's one of the big trends that we see in the industry. Is we call it convergence or digital continuity. So it's happened for ages in games where you've got outsourcing or insourcing and moving assets around. But definitely in film and games. Actually, there's an Australian example at the moment, which is that with Guardians of the Law, which Animal Logic are working on. So they're doing the film, which I think releases in September. And the games of the film has been done by Chrome Studios and Tantalus, so Brisbane and Melbourne. So, from what I understand, there was a fair amount of interaction between those organisations, sharing assets, storyboards, reference material, and all of that kind of thing. So, that's definitely a big trend, and that's definitely why we're working on things like FBX to make sure stuff can be moved around.
I understand, but you've been able to use Autodesk tools for 3D for a while.
Yep.
So what's new in that area?
In terms of 3D?
Well, I guess when I say 3D, of course, I mean stereoscopic
stereo,
workflow,
right.
and not 3D
per se.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, you're right. I mean, it's a huge area. Just this week, the first stereo TVs I think went on sale in Australia. And there's a massive demand for 3D content, not just from films but also TV now. I'm hearing a lot of sort of evidence that TV series are being commissioned in stereo. So it's a huge growth area, and it's the figures speak for themselves, don't they? I think the 3D film generates about 3 times as much revenue as a 2D film. So we've had 3D in the software products for a while. So I think SIGGRAPH before last, we introduced 3D into Maya, so a stereo viewpoint in Maya, and also in Toxic, which is the compositing package, which is now actually integrated within Maya. So stereo's been there for a while, the 3D products, and that was actually the big focus of all the announcements for the creative finishing products at NAB. So we now have stereo workflows in Flame and in Smoke as well. So the really nice workflow there is you can take stereo camera rigs in from Maya straight into Flame or Smoke for more effects and finishing and what have you.
I guess you did mention the creative finishing aspect, which previously was known as the system side of the business. So can you speak about that positioning, and what's the intent behind that, I guess?
Okay, so there's been quite a lot of changes in that business over the last 12 months. I suppose the major change really has been, whereas in the past we've sold those systems as very high-end turnkey systems, hardware and software bundles, we're basically selling some of those products now as software only, which is making them accessible to a far greater audience. So the two examples of that will be Flare, which is basically a software-only version of Flame, okay, which has been very, very successful. So we're selling that to existing Flame customers. So those people who've got existing investment in Flame can access Flare, and that's being used as an assist station to the main Flame suite, or for teaching junior artists all about their tool set. So Flare's been very successful, and back in December we announced Smoke on the Mac. Okay, so it's a software-only version of Smoke at a much lower price point than it has been previously. So it's like $22,000 Australian, plus obviously the hardware. But it just opens up a whole new market for us, which is typically people using Final Cut, people using Avid. They might be using multiple different applications to do their finishing and their effects. Well, now they can basically do it all on Smoke on the Mac. One simple software platform that's going to cost them a fraction of the cost it would have done in the past. So having said all that though, there's still very much a place for the high-end systems, so we're still seeing customers investing in those. There's still a high demand for client-facing sessions where ads have to be got out the door very, very quickly, and that's absolutely where the Flames and Smokes, that's absolutely where
I was going to say, the integrated systems would bring performance benefits of processing speed as opposed to software only thing. So
absolutely. And some of those workflows, you can work currently with data on Flame, create your shots in Flame, you can take them over to Luster, do your color grading, working on those shots where you're working on the next set of shots in Flame, and just flip the data back and forth very, very easily on one system. So it's a very powerful workflow.